Alrighty, folks. I think we'll stand and we'll salute the flag. Pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag. United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to start with a prayer. Comrades, this day is sacred with the most visible presence of those who have gone before us. We honor the memory of those who gave their lives in service of our country, and those others who have dropped their burden by the wayside of life and have gone to their eternal rest. May the ceremonies of today deepen their reserve for their departed friends and comrades. Let us renew our pledge for loyalty to our country, its flag. Let us resolve by word and deed to emphasize the privilege of duty and patriotism. Thank you. Be seated, please. I'd like to introduce some of the dignitaries here. I hope I have it right. Valerie O'Keefe, distinguished there. Mayor Feld. Latimer, Judy Myers. Somebody please put your hands up. Well, I apologize. This is a new one for me. Would one of the distinguished guests like to say something?
Thank you, George. George has very graciously stepped in to run the ceremony, instead of, in the place of Jack Thompson, who broke his hip. Now he's in a nursing home and a rehab unit. So George has stepped in, and I want to thank George very much. Now, the town of Mamaroneck has distinguished elected officials here. We've got Deputy Supervisor Phyllis Whitner. We have Councilman David Fishman. And is there any other council person here? And when Mayor Feld will come up in a second, and she will introduce the village officials who are here. There's 3 trustees here. We've been to many ceremonies, and I think it was Judy Myers said this morning, actually, you know, having these different ceremonies gives a chance for lots of people to at least pay their respect to the of the armed forces. I don't know if this works, but anyway, it does. I want to be very short. I want to thank all of you. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I want to thank all the American Legion members, because it's very important that we do not forget these people. The one thing I was thinking, I talked to my husband on the way down, when I got out of law school, he got out of law school, and his brother was in Vietnam, the kids would come back, people spat in their faces. I mean, there was no respect whatsoever for the veterans. Now, we learned today that less than 1.025% of the armed forces of the United States, that's the population. I mean, a teeny less than 0.25% of the population is under arms or in the United States armed services. And since we have an all-volunteer army, these people keep getting sent back over and over and over. John Tochi told us. The people in reserves are sent back 3 different tours of duty. Bert Corbin said when you went to Vietnam, you went for 2 years, then you could get out of there. And they keep sending them back and sending them back, and to get a higher and higher chance of both mental and physical illness. And we have to devote ourselves to be sure that these people, when they come back, get the right kind of treatment, because we almost don't see them anymore because they don't come from around here. So the Kemper memorial service today was excellent, and we've been all around. And yesterday we had a bagpipe ceremony over at the Mamaroneck American Legion because they paid them for a parade, which never happened. So they went into the Legion and they played the bagpipes for like a half an hour, which was good, I guess. It was very stirring. But Mayor Feld did not want to make a speech, but I think she should come up for a minute to introduce her elected officials, and maybe in a very teeny way, she'll tell you the story about her father at the dinner table when her brother said this test was the worst thing in the world. So I think that kind of said everything. Thank you, Nancy.
Thanks, Valerie. I'm coming out to dinner. I don't usually wear this to Memorial Day. Trustee Marlene Colbert, she's also the deputy mayor, is here, and Trustee Ann McAndrew and Richard Ward. I actually was joking with my husband before, who happens to be Jewish, that Memorial Day has become like Hanukkah. We've been celebrating since last Thursday. It's the 8th night of our Memorial Day ceremonies, and this is it. I'll tell you, I did this morning at the Kemper. We had a beautiful ceremony, and I was reminiscing about my father who flew B-25s in World War II. And his perspective on life was informed by that experience, as is most of the veterans who've served all of the wars over the last several centuries. But what it really did was guide him as a parent. Things were very clear, black and white, yes and no. There was not a lot of soul-searching and deep, meaningful dinner time discussion about our feelings and our rights. So at one point, my brother Charlie, who was in high school at the time, came home and we were having dinner one night, and he started to complain about a test he had had that day, and he said, I just had the hardest test of my life. And it just set my father off. I don't know what it was. And he stopped and he said, no, the hardest test in any man's life is having to stand on the dock before he's being shipped out to service in a war and give his best friend a letter to give to his mother in case he doesn't come home alive. That is a real test in life. And it is something that I've thought about a lot over the last, certainly over the last, 25 years of my life. But really recently, with people talking about the economy and the budgets and the problems that we're all having locally, and then they complain about their sidewalks and their curbs, it's a little perspective that we all need. We need to remember that there are people who are still serving every single day to fight for this country and for freedom and justice all over the world. So people whose names are on this memorial and up in the Kemper and everywhere else, they really took the biggest test. And we need to keep that in mind as we govern every single day and live our lives around this community. So I'm just here to honor all of them.
Judy Myers, would you like to say something?
I'll just speak loudly. I'm going to be very short. I'm just thankful to be here and thankful that I live in a community that still does something like this, to remember, to commemorate, to gather together once, twice, 3 times a year as a group and remember and be thankful. And I am very fortunate to live here, and I think we are all very, very fortunate that we've had these men and women who have served, that we have men and women who are continuing to serve to give us this kind of community and to keep us free. Thank you.
Jordan, would like to step forward?
I used to be a Little League baseball manager. Can you hear me? Johnny, move over! We've been, as Valerie said, to so many different ceremonies, and there's a temptation to repeat yourself and say the same things that you said the last time. I try to say something different each time if I can think of something different. And I think in this particular situation, I want us, all of us, and particularly those of us who are civilians, who haven't served in uniform, to thank the American Legion and the VFW posts of our communities. And that would be Post 347 in Larchmont, and the neighboring post, Post 90 in Mamaroneck, and Post 8 in New Rochelle, and Post David Potts Post 1156 at VFW. Because these are the people that make these events happen, so that we have a chance to remember. because as I think Judy said this in one of the earlier ones, and Kathy Savold said it, we pass by these monuments every day of our lives. And if there wasn't an effort made to come and sit and listen and look at the names and remember the names again, they would be forgotten. So those of you who have served, Bill Byrne who has served, Ed Murray and Bert Corwin who have served, George and the rest, your service today, in addition to your service to the country, is that this organization has kept this tradition alive. The hard part is, you know, at age 55, I may be among one of the younger people here. So we're going to have to figure out how to make people who are in their 40s and 30s and 20s care about this, so that years from the future, this ceremony will always exist. Whether any one of us are here, that there will always be an opportunity to come, hear these names read, and remember the sacrifice that they made. Before I leave, I want to recognize one other public official from the village of Mamaroneck with us today, Village Trustee Tony Pergola Ryan. Of course, her husband's a former town supervisor, Paul Ryan.
Thank you very much for your opportunity to speak, I guess, and the kind words for the veterans that you gave us. Now I would like to present the color guard. Come forward. Oh. Right. Hey. Order. Oh. Order. Oh. Ready. Ready.
David P. Anderson.
Accounted for.
Edward V. Berggren.
Accounted for.
Charles L. Berry.
Accounted for.
Robert Bishop.
Accounted for.
Charles J. Boyle, Jr.
Accounted for.
John F. Brady.
Accounted for.
Wilbur R. Buckingham.
Accounted for.
Ronald A. Cargill.
Accounted for.
Pasquale J. Carino.
Accounted for.
Clement L. Cassell.
Accounted for.
William B. Kroll.
Accounted for.
Randall Dobbs.
Accounted for.
Charles B. F. Dolan.
Accounted for.
John W. Arrett.
Accounted for.
William J. Farrington.
Accounted for.
Kenneth F. Foster.
Accounted for.
Robert E. Fry.
Accounted for.
Thomas B. Hilton.
Accounted for.
Woodrow W. Johns.
Accounted for.
Joseph E. Kane.
Accounted for.
Richard M. Kemper.
Accounted for.
Mervyn A. King.
Accounted for.
Richard B. Knight.
Accounted for.
Ivers W. Lawrence.
Accounted for.
Roger P. Lyon.
Accounted for.
Walter R. Manny Jr.
Accounted for.
William A. Mather.
Accounted for.
George W. McElroy Jr.
Accounted for.
Joseph F. Myers.
Accounted for.
Charles F. Mitchell.
Accounted for.
Hamilton F. Morris.
Accounted for.
Fred P. Motz Jr.
Accounted for.
Luke J. Murtha.
Accounted for.
Clark A. Neal.
Accounted for.
Frank J. Roma.
Accounted for.
Frank A. Russom.
Accounted for.
Vito C. Sabato.
Accounted for.
James G. Schaefer.
Accounted for.
Richard A. Schmidt.
Accounted for.
Lawrence S. Schofield Jr.
Accounted for.
Joseph J. Skagna.
Accounted for.
Richard J. Shea.
Accounted for.
William Harvey Smith.
Accounted for.
William Hugh Smith.
Accounted for.
Vincent L. Stouter Jr.
Accounted for.
Thomas D. Sullivan.
Accounted for.
John Thompson.
Accounted for.
Andrew Edward Tuck III.
Accounted for.
George H. Walker.
Accounted for.
Kenneth Whiting.
Accounted for.
Robert F. Zimmerman.
Accounted for. Now we will read the Korean veterans with
Francis J. McDonnell.
Accounted for.
Owen A. Norton.
Accounted for. Vietnam. We'll repeat.
Anthony P. Agar.
Accounted for.
John P. Batterson Jr.
Accounted for.
Michael A. R. DeMagnan.
Accounted for.
Martin Jerome Keogh.
Accounted for.
Richard Western.
Accounted for.
Thank you. The color guard will now present arms and then fire off a salute to our father Prince.
Hut. Present. Hut. Ready. Ready. Aim. Fire. Ready. Aim. Fire. Ready. Aim. Fire. Color guard. Present. Hut.
Thank you. Please go to parade rest.
Parade. Hut.
We're going to play the that concludes the ceremony for the evening. I'd like to thank you for all coming, and you're all invited back to Post 347 for sandwiches or coffee or some cake, and you're all invited. And thank you for coming on this Memorial Day.